Hey guys, I wanted to talk for a minute about screen issues. I have a used computer right here, which is going to be my main computer now. Now, unfortunately, the backlight just blew out the other day, so that's a little bit of a problem for me, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens and what you should do if this happens to you. I want to take this opportunity to do that. So, first off, you want to make sure it's the screen. And there are also fuses that could have blown. And if I end up finding a bad one, I'll of course be logging that. I'm going to be checking with the multimeter right here. And first off, you'll want to take off with a credit card the actual frame here that's on the front. Very carefully go around each side individually and then meet at the corners. And after that point, you should be able to take this off here. But what you're going to want to do is check if it's the backlight. That's important. What I'm going to do is point this flashlight in an angle, and what that allows me to see, if you can look closely, you'll see a Twitter feed back there. So the screen itself is actually working overall, but there is no light whatsoever. That means that the backlight or the back lamp is completely out. And as mentioned, it could be a bad fuse. Look up guides on how to do that. And if I find it is a fuse for me, of course, I'll try and get a video done to share that process with you guys. But for now, I wanted to just talk a little bit about it, take this opportunity since it happened to me. And after you find that out, and if it is not a fuse, you should be able to replace the screen, or even go to eBay and just simply get the backlight lamps. They're only about $15 for about 5 or 10 of them, so they're very affordable, much more affordable than the screen, but there is some carefulness needing to apply, and you're going to need to be very delicate with the process because, of course, as we know, LCD screens, as my last cracked one can tell you, from a broken hinge, what happened to my last computer. I've had a little bit of a string of bad luck lately, so this is going to be something I'm going to work on fixing. It's holding me back a bit in my other work, but I am going to get this up and running. It runs fine, runs beautifully. In fact, I took it apart just the other day to replace the thermal paste. So that's another thing. If you get a used computer, first thing you should do is replace the thermal paste. It'll keep your computer and CPU about 15 degrees cooler at least, depending on how bad and how old that thermal paste is. So that's the number one tip I have for people who got a used computer. Take the whole thing apart. The thermal paste should be wet. And in my case, this one was dry, but a little wet around the edges. So I completely replaced the GPU and the CPU thermal paste, reapplied it, put it all back together, and now I'm going to be working on the backlight issue. But on the good note, this is a ThinkPad. It's a great modular computer. It's one of the great benefits of the ThinkPads. You can have it for years and years and years and just continue upgrading and replacing parts in a modular way. So it's a great computer, great device, and I look forward to fixing this screen issue, and that is the only problem I'm having at the moment. And then I'll be able to get more content. Right now I'm actually putting together proxy lists for supporters. I'm testing all those proxies out right now. Of course, I'll open up the proxy list to all followers once I get the whole set of lists done, but I'm going to open it a little early for those who have shown support as a big thank you. So thanks again, everyone. I'll be logging my progress here with this machine. Another great thing about the ThinkPads, the older ThinkPads, is you can actually flash ME Cleaner and Core Boot onto this, which is replacing the BIOS. You don't know what's on the BIOS. Now, people think about replacing their operating system with Linux, but if the BIOS were compromised and the Intel management engine were malicious, you'd still have a problem there. So that's one of the great things about the older ThinkPads. This one's pretty nice though. It's 2.5 gigahertz, 16 gigabytes of RAM. So I'm going to get this thing up and running. I'm excited about that. So leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back later with more on the ThinkPad.